everyone for coming. My name is Antonio Acuna, and I am the head of consulting for a company called Parity. Parity is a company that deals with data. We believe that the way data is going, the way the whole sector, the way the whole process of doing data, handling data, dealing with data is going, needs a different kind of people. It's a paradigm shift, and it is an intersection between, the humans that do it and the technology that works with the human. So my talk today, Demystifying Data, what they don't tell you at data school, aligns pretty much with that firm belief we have about what that next direction is, about where we believe, and I believe, we need to go. Funnily, in the past, I used to work for government. I used to run Data.gov UK, which was a data service, open data service for government. And I had the experience of working with many countries, and it was very pleasurable, but also I saw a lot of different problems with data. I was able to see different levels of mistakes, shall I say, city level, government level, local authority level. And that made me think that there was an aspect of the works that we do with data that was missing. And that was that layer before the data is used for something. So I don't know how many of you here are data scientists, are people that play with data, that know how to actually do things with data. Show of hands, maybe? How many of you are people that do governance of data, management of data, the more esoteric aspects of dealing with data? And how many of you do not work with data but have responsibilities for areas that pertain to data? So it's a mixture, it's a good mixture, excellent. So I want to start with the concept of a system, because any of you at any of those levels would have encountered the fact that you're not alone. You're given a bit of data, work on this, we're going to do that. That came from somewhere because of something, and it's going somewhere else to do something else after you. So generally, we're dealing with systems. This is a very good definition. System means a configuration of parts connected and joined together by a web of relationships. Actually, that's a very good definition for the world in which all of us deal with data one way or another. Okay? We work within systems, and those systems try to talk to each other. Sometimes it's entities, sometimes it's actual computer services. Okay? So let's start with the right thing. Let's start with what is data. What I believe is data is not the new oil and is not the new gold. It's a transactional currency that you can use across systems. Okay? Data is used for systems to talk to each other. Your age, your name, your social security number, your national insurance number, all of those things are transactional items that go from one system to another, and depending on what you do to those transactional items, something comes out, or something happens to you. Okay? So data is not a byproduct of a transaction between systems. The systems themselves are a byproduct of the fact that we need data. Okay? If I need to give you a service, if I need to do this talk, I need to capture who wants to come to the talk. I need to get your names. I need to get your details. Okay, that is so I can actually give the talk. Whatever I use to track that, Excel, complex, expensive system is irrelevant. They only exist because I have a need to obtain your data, so I know how many people are coming, so I can put the right number of chairs at the very end of the day. Okay? So these transactions occur across systems because the job needs doing. Okay, and I'm starting way back to the basics. I'm going back to the thing that we generally don't think about when we're doing data. I'm a data analyst. What do you do? I do data. I'll give you an example. I used to work with an international entity. They used to do lendings to countries to support growth and to get people out of poverty. There was a project about Africa, and it was about getting farms in Africa and being able to produce more arable land and so forth. And there was a group of about 25 data scientists, all excited about looking at all the different combinations of what will feed the most people. And this went on for about 3 days. Then they got competitive. Well, my model can fit 55,000. Well, mine can do that, but needs less water. And it was brilliant, beautiful. Until it got to the point where I talked to one of them and said, so if you're only going to fit 50,000 people, how many are not going to be fed? Oh, about 100,000. And it was said without any sense of guilt or sadness or anything. It was just a number. I've been given a bit of data, I'm running a model, and the model is coming up with good stuff. And I said, you know those are people. And it was that disassociation with the human reality that data was about people and it was going to be used to impact people, that left me very cold, very surprised. Then I looked at how people identify what data is needed, and that was the bit that was missing. Why are we doing this? A job needs doing. Coming up with a better model? No, feeding people is the right thing. Data scientists were looking at the best model, but they weren't thinking of, we come up with the best thing to feed people. The job that needed to be done was not part of how they were doing things. So I began to think about the whole process before you, data scientists, get a bit of data, needs to be rethought. It needs to be rethought in a different way. Again, it's always about a human and it ends up affecting a human. So you understand the job to be done. I just gave you an example. The job to be done was to feed as many people as possible. Okay? Not to find the best model, you know, with a good ratio of water to arable land. It was how can we get to feed as most people as possible? And that was missed in the conversation. So once you understand that job to be done, then you know what is the transactional structure you need from A all the way to the end of it to actually get that job done. That will determine what data you need to capture. That will determine what are your tolerance levels. That will determine what services you're going to wrap around it. All of that is going to be determined by you identifying why on earth am I capturing this data. And you may be given data in one of your jobs for 1,000 things and said, make some magic. And I've been in situations like that. And you said, for what? So it's rethinking why we do this. This is a very good quote. People do not want a quarter-inch drill. They want a quarter-inch hole. Goes back to the jobs to be done thing. Okay? What are you trying to provide as a data scientist, as a data person, as a company? What are you trying to do? You might be chasing the quarter-inch drill, but actually your problem isn't the hole. And unless you understand that you need something that can make a hole, not something that looks like a drill, then we'll be failing in terms of how data produces insight that can help us actually do the right things. This is, remember, at the lower level. The level before the data you use gets created. Okay? So you define your data needs around the job to be done. The set of needs that must be fulfilled. This is about user needs. They don't tell us that. I've talked to many data scientists, and all of them says, what do you mean by user needs? And I go, well, you know, why? I don't care. I have these 5 items of data, I need to do these transactions with it, and I need to build this. Like, so you don't know why we're capturing that. How do you know that the thing you've created is the best process for achieving the ultimate goal? You're seeing one step of it, one aspect, divorce of the entirety of why on earth we're doing this exercise. And you're going to output something that appears to work within that small, fragmented view that you have, without any understanding of how it links, impacts, or touches on anything else and anybody else that has to do with it. Okay? And again, as I said, it's before it gets to you. So meaningful data always emerges from meaningful interactions with users. So anything you do at the very end, it would have come out from a user, or it would have been about a user. It would have been about somebody, a behavior, purchasing patterns, behavior, demographics, people, okay? Personal data, private data, health data, treatments, people, schools, school results, people, cars that were bought or sold, people. Everything we do with data, no matter how aggregated, no matter how you throw it, is always at the end about people. So you need to understand, we need to understand that those meaningful interactions are the ones that will be the ones that generate the right data. So when we identify the right data needs, so we can fulfill the job to be done, then we can determine the right services. See, if you think of your data, if you work in isolation, I've given you a bit of data, can you model this? Lovely, here you go, here's your result. Then you go off to do something else, or maybe on a lovely holiday, you don't know what's going to happen to that data. Well, the reality is that I need to set up a service so that data meaningfully can be transacted across other things. So whatever you came up with, whatever we do from the data point of view, I need to somehow service it out. You could say, well, we can just put it on that data warehouse, and then an API is going to pick it. You can give me marvelous definitions of this, but at the very end of the day, okay, if we continue in that direction, we're going to end up with system upon system upon system upon system, okay, talking to each other. And then later on, we might be the same people that are the company that come in, can you fix our data problem? And then you go, why on earth is that talking to that, and then not talking to this, and then doing that? It's precisely because of that. We are creating the same situation we want somebody to fix for us, okay? If you want to think in terms of data transactions, whatever you do with data will become a transactional item going forward. And what you design that data as will determine the service principles you will use to transact the data out, okay? You might not be the individual that does this, but if the individuals that deal with the data are not aware of the contextual surrounding of this, we will keep getting bad outcomes. And they may look good now, but when you trace it all the way back to what it does to, at the end, an individual or a collective, you go, that wasn't good, was it? We all have plenty of stories for that. So, good service design requires that you have the right processes in places so you can meet your user needs. Once you meet your user needs, then you know what data needs to be captured. So when you're presented with a bunch of stuff and you go, this doesn't make any sense, but I'm going to make something of it, okay. You could turn back and ask, how on earth did you capture this and why? You want me to tell you the propensity of purchasing X from this data set? How do you get it? Why do you think that this thing is going to somehow tell me that? You know? And that backwards conversation of how did we arrive at this bizarre, obtuse data set that makes no sense whatsoever, and I'm sure everyone who's dealt with data has faced one of those, is because most of us in companies don't think about it. We just churn it. We don't think about that at all. So once you meet those, you have the guarantee that you can do the job, okay? That little bit there, it's going to sound strange, but that little bit there, I went around the world talking to people, talking to them about that, and they said, oh, we never thought of it that way. The whole concept of think of your data needs as a process from something needs to happen, a job needs to occur, what do I need to get to make that job happen, and what are the structures I need to put in place to sustain that so the job can be done, okay? This obviously is about people, okay? None of this is a machine. None of this is some AI doing this. This is us, all of us, involved in this. And we're never told that. We're always told, computer will fix it. It's okay. And it's never okay, because we're not paying attention to that layer. And then somebody tells you, here's a data lake, there's our data, yeah, lovely. And you look at it, and it's a mess. It's an utter disgrace. And you go, what do you want me to do with this? Make magic. And you go, I can't. This stuff doesn't make any sense. It's not linked to each other, there's no context, there is nothing. It's just a bunch of stuff you throw in a bucket. But somehow we tell them a data lake will solve your problems. Or a system, service, project, application X will solve your data problems. And it doesn't. Because there is no bad data. There's just bad processes that capture data that ends up being bad. And we throw so much at trying to fix bad data instead of trying to fix the reason why we have bad data. Okay? Which is the bad processes, the bad ways in which we approach architecting that data. And this is not about necessarily data architecture, it's not about data models, none of that, ontologies, taxonomies, is about the basic principles of organizing how you capture and how you service it from what needs to happen and why do I need that to happen. Because then the outcome is meaningful. If I am capturing this, it's because I need X. And X is important because A, B, and C. You now found meaning for your company. You now are doing something that in the end will produce something that will enrich your company, your business, whatever. Okay? Which is a very different approach. So, quickly, to do all that, to design good services, get the job done, to fix your processes, you're going to have to reimagine how you work. You're going to have to think of a strategy. Dirty word, dirty word, terrible word, because I've read many, many bad strategies, okay? So I want to give you a sense of what I think is a good strategy, or what I think a strategy is, overarchingly. A data strategy always responds to a business needs, okay? It doesn't take a stroll in the park. It looks at, we want to get there. Okay, there's a nice wall here, there's a bunch of people in front of me, I can run a bit fast. If I go to the left, run for about 10 seconds, then jump, then keep running, avoid that other table, I can probably get there. That's a strategy. That is what I need to do to get to where I'm going. And the risks of I might trip on that, I might gotta be careful with that, and so forth. That's a strategy. A strategy is just about getting somewhere. Strategy is about getting to endgame. Okay? It's not a stroll in the park. So it should always be about achieving a specific outcome, given the current circumstances. So any of your companies, any of your situations, you're facing very specific circumstances in the market, internally, with your relationships. Whatever strategy you put in place now for data or anything else will have to be about the things that are happening to you. It doesn't exist outside it. It cannot ignore the realities of what's happening to you. And with data, that's very important. Partners, data is coming from some other places, infrastructure, skill level of people, all of that needs to be part of that thinking. Okay, so you can achieve what you need to achieve. And it should always be reductionist in my view. It should always be, you know, even if it says you need to expand, it should be the minimum viable problem. It should be the minimum viable product. Okay? You should always think of what is the minimum thing I can do to get there. And what do I need to do to make that happen? Okay? So, when you think about it, and this is something we use a lot in Parity, is you look at the vision a company has. Let's think data in this case. You look at the technical and people capabilities, and I'll tell you why, because you can come to me and say, we want to do a data strategy. Fantastic. Let's work it up. And we're going to do an ambitious data strategy. Let's just look at what you need to do to get to where you want to get. But hey, what about your people? What do you mean? Well, we're going to have to change the way they behave so they can behave in whatever new way you want to be with data. Okay? We're going to change how we manage data, how we handle data. So we're going to change the behaviors of the people that do that. Otherwise, they're going to keep doing the same they were doing before. We haven't gone anywhere. So you need to look at your technical and people capabilities, and you need to be aware of the reality of your data. How good is it? How far does it go? How much does it cover? You take all that, where they meet, that's your roadmap for strategy. Because that's where you are. Unless you're going to throw everything out of the window, you're going to have to start from there. And most probably, from that point, is where you're going to achieve the most efficient outcomes for your growth. Okay? And it's just thinking in that way. It doesn't come out of thin air. It just can't. It doesn't land on the table magically. So, a data strategy should have an implementation plan. You can't change how you do data without changing the people. I told you. You cannot change how you do data and stay organizationally as you are now. It just won't work. Which is one of the things that we care about, which is the quality of the people, the mindset, the people that we need going forward have, which is very different. There's a tremendous shift for us. We cannot keep doing the same thing as we did before, because there's not going to be some big AI that's going to fix everything. We're going to have tools that are going to help us do marvelous things, but we humans are still going to be the ones making the intelligent decision at the very end of the day. Okay? Because it's going to affect our lives, and we're going to want that right. So an implementation plan reflects an understanding of the risks and changes and proposes mitigations for it. Nothing complicated. And every data transaction is a response to a human problem. Every data transaction that happens in your business is a response to a human issue. And every single thing that's going to be on your data strategy will be a response to a human issue through data. They're not divorced, okay? No matter how much we look at, you know, it's on a computer screen, it's on a database, it's on AWS, it's on whatever. It's about collectives and people. Because while AI can help using poorly captured data, it cannot fix the fact that it's poorly captured. Okay? So, if I am doing something wrong, and then you buy something very, very expensive to deal with the fact that I'm doing something wrong, that's still going to be the best we can do with something that was done wrongly. What you need to do is turn around and stop me doing something wrong and try to get me to do it right. And then that can help you make it even better. And that is a fundamental thing. So it's not that AI is not going to solve a lot of problems, it's that it can only work with what you give it. And if you continue making bad stuff because AI will fix it, we are all going to fail. Just that's the wrong paradigm. Okay? AI augments our intelligence, it augments our ability, but if our output is poor, it's still going to be poor. There's no way changing that at all whatsoever. So all of this, I know it sounds strange, but all of this, it's about, if we look at data from a different way, if we take out the myth of this magical thing, data is a very simple transactional item that goes on between systems. And we build services to transact that data item, and those systems output other things. And somewhere in between you manage that because you're doing this because somehow you want to achieve something else. If you map that out, if you're actually clear on what you want to achieve, and you design your processes across, thinking in terms of what you want to achieve, okay, then that data is of value to your company and enriches your company. And the same goes for the strategy that will run how you do that. That strategy is about getting you there and identifying what you might have to do to get there. It's not about planning a picnic, okay? Those put together, a mindset shift to service design approach to capturing and handling data, and a mindset shift in terms of what a strategy should be when it comes to data or anything else really, then boom, we have a different space where a different type of people then can come along and help us. Yeah? It's as simple as that.